Right, we begin here. Men will now be able to assume their wives' surname, should they choose to do so. This after the Constitutional Court confirmed in a judgment on Thursday that Section 26(1)(a) to (c) of the Births and Deaths Registration Act is unconstitutional insofar as it unfairly discriminates on the basis of gender by failing to afford men the right to assume the surname of women after marriage. This after the applicants, the two married couples, Jana, Jordaan and Henry van der Merwe, as well as Jess, Donnelly-Bornman and Andreas, Nicolas Bornman, turned to the Apex Court in March this year for a confirmation of invalidity against the said section.
The Constitutional Court has undone the practice of women being expected to assume their husband's surname as the family name, describing it as largely a colonial import rooted in patriarchal norms.
In the case of men, they are deprived of the ability to assume their wife's surname if they so wish. In the case of women, the effects of the scheme are far more insidious. It is not merely so that they are deprived of the right to have their surnames serve as the family surname where their husbands wish to take that surname. It also reinforces patriarchal gender norms which prescribe how women may express their identity, and it makes this expression relational to their husband as a governmental and cultural default.
The Constitutional Court further found that the extent and impact of the discrimination does not stop there.
The impact on women is also far-reaching. The symbolic consequence is that women's identities are subsumed into their husbands' families after marriage. This has the inevitable upshot of entrenching the notion that the husband is the head of the household. This practice also perpetuates the historical philosophy that women are not equal to men and become akin to minors upon marriage.
As a result, the Apex Court confirmed that Section 26 of Section 1A to C of the Births and Deaths Registration Act is unconstitutional insofar as it unfairly discriminates on the basis of gender by failing to afford men the right to assume the surname of women after marriage.
The declaration of invalidity is suspended for a period of 24 months to enable Parliament to remedy the defects by either amending the existing legislation or passing new legislation.
Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, some residents at Atok outside Burgersfort in Limpopo have expressed mixed feelings over the ruling by the Constitutional Court that allows men to legally assume their wives' surnames.
I don't think it's a problem, especially if we are a couple and in love. It is similar to what was happening before, only reversed. I don't see a problem.
It means it's now 50-50. As women, our feelings also need to be acknowledged as equal partners.
I don't see a problem. As men, I'm used to approaching women. Now they must approach me. The decision to take the surname is mine.
Let's get some reaction from Contralesa's General Secretary Zolani Mkiva, who joins us to reflect on this ruling. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, we've just listened to mixed reactions from some South Africans in Limpopo talking about how, you know, it's really not a problem. We're in love. What is the problem? What's your reaction?
Well, it's laughable that an African court can come to that conclusion. And it's something that I don't see it being implementable. And any parliament that were to take a decision to make that enforceable would actually be inviting the citizens to collapse that parliament. Look, this ruling is very destructive because what it will do is going to destabilize the families, the communities, and society at large. Because we take cue on the cultural arrangement and structural arrangements of the African society. we think that a ruling of this nature is sowing the seeds of divisions, and it's casting aspersions between men and women on a matter which has been looked at in a very narrow way, a narrow perspective and a narrow articulation, which is actually flawed, because no woman loses her identity when she is married, because at all material times, women in an African society are called by their clan name, even when they are married. They never lose their identity. So it's based on falsehoods and a non-understanding and miseducation, which you see that it manifests in courts that are employing Roman Dutch laws.
Yeah.
So as Contralesa, we reject this and we're going to challenge it. And we're going to make sure that we engage society at large. And I think time has come for us to realize that what we have called for the longest period of time as the best constitution is beginning to become a beast that is now eating against our own cultural, terms of living.
When you say you're going to challenge it, pardon me, on what grounds, if you're saying that you're going to challenge this matter?
In every respect, we're going to challenge it legally. We're also going to challenge it politically by taking this fight straight to Parliament itself, so that we object to this, so that that section stays put. There's no need for this to be changed, because it's anti-African, it's un-African for us to allow this to happen, because it, as I say, it is going to destabilize the basic unit of our society, which is an African family. It is going to redefine many issues, including issues of succession. It is actually going to create chaos. And I don't think that in their thinking, the judges and justices have really taken that into account, because a mere two people who have a particular narrow view are now being taken into account against, their view is taken into account and has a privilege against the majority of the people.
Let me ask you this.
Challenge.
Yeah, just for the sake of time, from a traditional leadership standpoint, I mean, you've just said to me that it's un-African. Perhaps give us some depth on the role of a surname, how that role plays in defining lineage, identity, and perhaps ancestral connection in African cultures.
Well, in terms of the lineage of families, a woman gets married into the family of a man. That's our structure, and the bloodline is defined in that context, and that dates back, to centuries and centuries from the beginning of time, if you like. And therefore, when you change that by just employing a ruling by an apex court, it goes against an establishment, which actually does not harm anyone, because everyone in the African society is comfortable with that arrangement. It's a similar thing when people just say that because as South Africa we espouse non-racialism and non-sexism, you simply say now because the polygamy is acceptable in the South African context, therefore polyandry must also be acceptable. It doesn't go like that. Polyandry is not part and parcel of our culture. So we mustn't just take rulings, that negates the values and the norms and the systems that have been established and that have created stability in our society, because we are creating instability.
Okay, so could the ruling then be interpreted as a challenge to patriarchy, perhaps, or rather a sign of gender equality within traditional structures?
Now, as I say, the role of women in our society, patriarchy is not part of our system. The role and the place of a married woman is entrenched. For instance, tenure security is guaranteed on the side of the woman who's married to me. So it's a no-brainer. So these people are miseducated when they take a decision based on ill information. Because I think they need first to understudy and study the nuances of our culture so that the interpretation of culture vis-a-vis the laws, which are even foreign, they can see the disjuncture and the discord on the decisions that they arrive at. So I think that the ruling itself is full of contradictions and ill information, which is based on something that is not true, something that is totally untrue, and something that is totally un-African. For instance, as I say, they say a woman loses her identity when she gets married, but uMaXulu, when she is married, Mkiva remains uMaXulu, and that's how she is referred to for the rest of her life. So it's totally untrue. And a surname is not a primary factor in terms of defining a married woman, but her clan name is a primary factor. In some communities of South Africa, of course, the clan and the surname is the same thing. But in others, it's not the same. But what is common, and the common denominator, is that a married woman is always called by her clan name, even in a marriage arrangement.
Thank you so much. Thanks for speaking to us this evening and weighing in on that conversation. Contralesa's General Secretary Zolani Mkiva, who, of course, expanded on that, giving his perspective.